What's up, Shaw, everybody? Another episode of Nass here, Player Pyramid Edition. Happy New Year, happy holidays to all you guys. I know I hinted, I put up a couple TikToks, a couple clips hinting that, I got a big pyramid dropping. But before I get into the pyramid, I'm going to get into, a couple players that, have really ascended, who really, taking their games to the next level, help their teams out. Not quite good enough to make my pyramid just because, like I say every time, we have a discussion, the league is just insanely deep. I think it's literally like the golden era of skill and just overall just basketball. So before I get into that, man, shout out Frank Van Vliet, Evan Mobley, Anthony Simons, LaMelo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, Brad Beal, Carl-Anthony Towns, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero. Those are just a couple of, those are probably a couple of names that, didn't really come to my head as I was going through the pyramid, but shout out to all those guys. Those guys been hooping for the most part. Kuzma having an all-star year. Jordan Poole, he's holding his own while Steph is out. LaMelo Ball just got back. He's hooping too. Evan Mobley, Paolo, Franz. A lot of these guys a lot of young guys that have really been taking their game to the next level, and they've really been showing out. Who knows, this time, maybe 2-3 months from now, you never know. One of these guys might squeeze in. I just saw Jordan Poole on, was it Christmas Day? Jordan Poole on Christmas Day, he went toe-to-toe with Ja, and Ja Morant is someone that I have in the pyramid. So those are all things I take into consideration when, evaluating all these players and, where they are. So with that being said, it's time to jump into this pyramid, you know what I mean? And let's get to it.
Engulfed by the history, the most successful storied history. Anybody else out to the locker room
So, before I really, really get in my bag, all these players that are in the pyramid, this is not really a necessary ranking. And I know, doing the old school 1 through 10, this guy's number 1, this guy's the 7th best player in the world, this guy's the 12th best player in the world. I know that's a method that, we've been using since the dark ages. But, like I said, shout out to Bill Simmons, shout out to Nick Wright with this player pyramid. This is kind of just, it kind of groups guys together. It's not necessarily he's better than him. Obviously, we know who the superstars are, the megastars, and we know who the stars are. We know who the all-stars are. We know who the, the guys on the rise, like I just mentioned previously. But with this pyramid, I don't want people to take it and be like, all right, well, it's basketball. It's so, you can't, there's no definitive way to really prove that player A is better than player B. Unless, obviously player B is a 6th man and player A is LeBron James, then okay, then I get that. But in this particular case where you get personally my 30, I don't even want to say best. I want to say it's basically a combination of the 30 best, most impactful, guys in the league right now. And obviously that has to do, production goes into it. Impact on team success, that's a big component. Situations, like I said, not all these guys have been in the same situations. There's some guys who are, higher in the pyramid than before because of, the role they're in, the team they play for, maybe the coaching style, or other complementary players that are, that might be on the team that might help their game grow to a certain level. You know what I mean? So, this wouldn't be a pyramid I would say is gonna is going to be a mic drop, you know. You're not going to get any hot takes from here. It's just really just analyzing like I said, the 30 most impactful slash most talented slash best guys in the league, you know, at this point. And we're like 33, 34 games in, something like that, depending on the team. All-Star break is like a month from now. I know All-Star voting is going down. You know, I'm going to have an All-Star episode maybe a couple weeks. I want to wait. I know people are already putting their rosters together now, but it's not early, but at the same time, it's kind of early. Like, there's still like a good 2 to 3 weeks of like actual basketball needs to be played, and that can make a difference. You know what I mean? I mean, the past month, someone who's had like a great month, they might have like a trash next like week and a half, 2 weeks, and that may be the difference between them starting or, you know, them coming off the bench. So, with that being said, let me jump into the pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, cream of the crop. Actually, there's the cream of the crop has 2 tiers. So there's like the cream of the crop, and then there's like kind of the bottom cream of the crop. So at the very, very, very apex of the player pyramid mountain, my player pyramid mountain, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, and Jason Tatum. Now I know the order I said it in. I'm not saying Kevin Durant is, you know, better than Luka, better than Tatum. It's, for me personally, it's too close to tell. All 3 of them are playing an outstanding brand of basketball right now. Kevin Durant, just, you know, I'm going to go chronological order. Kevin Durant, I mean, the Nets have been probably the hottest team in the league this year. You know, they dominated December. Kevin Durant being at the forefront of that. He's doing what he does. I mean, I still somehow get shocked at the things he does on a nightly basis. But at the same time, it's like, this is Kevin Durant. He's been doing this for basically, not my whole life, but a majority of my life. I've just been seeing this man just become a greater and greater and greater and greater and greater basketball player. I don't know how he does it, but he does. Jason Tatum, I feel like he's now this two-way megastar on the best team in the league right now. The Celtics have been cruising. He's pretty much been the biggest reason. He's probably an MVP front runner. It's honestly between, I would say, KD and Luka. Those 3 would probably be my MVP like front runners, legit. And Luka Doncic is just Luka Doncic. I mean, there's really nothing that the man pretty much can't do on the basketball court. The way he's been able to facilitate, and you match that with scoring and spacing and just being able to navigate every single sort of defense that he sees. I mean, Tatum, KD, and Luka, those are 3 of the probably the most doubled guys in the league. I mean, once they cross half court, they're probably seeing 2. Them having that awareness to just be able to kind of pick apart defenses, it's impressive. It's very, very impressive. Tatum and Luka, especially just because, like, they're so young. They're so young into their superstar NBA careers that, like, them being able to already read that at this point, like, by the time they're, like, 28, 29, like, really in their prime in terms of, like, professionalism, ability, and all that, there's nothing they've never been able to see because they're already seeing it right now. So that's at the top of the mountain. Kevin Durant, Tatum, and Luka Doncic. Next tier below. And by the way, each tier, like, I didn't really... When I was doing this exercise, like, I wasn't going, okay, it has to be 5 players here, it has to be 4 players here, 10 players here. Like, no, I just felt like the best complementary, you know, star level players are gonna, like, whatever player suits what you've been doing, that's who you're gonna be with. You know what I mean? So Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, they've been superstars this year, superstars. Their teams probably aren't like exactly where they want to be, but they've been producing. So, you know, I put them together. Nikola Jokic. He's gonna, and I know I named off KD, Tatum, and Luka as like the front runners for MVP, but Joker is gonna have another MVP case. He's most likely gonna be an MVP finalist. I think the finalists, there's 5 finalists, I believe, not 3, 5. He's definitely gonna be a finalist if he keeps this up. Obviously, you know, getting Jamal Murray back, getting a healthy Michael Porter Jr. back, that's definitely helped. Bruce Brown and KCP are just like wonderful complementary players to them. Bones Highland has taken, you know, another leap. He's been able to really take on that 6-man role and be that microwave off the bench. So, you know, Joker is Joker. He hasn't done anything different since last year. It just seems like he's just mastering everything that he's been doing. So, yeah, Joker is in that tier. Steph Curry. Steph was an MVP finalist, like, up until he got hurt. Like, he was definitely going to be an MVP finalist until he got hurt. He was probably playing his best basketball ever, which is crazy because he just had his best finals ever. He already has, like, how many MVPs? 2? He has 2 to his name, already a scoring champion. So you would think that he would still be playing superstar basketball, but as he's gotten older, he's actually gotten better, surprisingly. I don't know how he does it, but he was the reason, why the Warriors were even staying afloat, if we're truly being honest. 30 points a night, ridiculous shooting splits. The guy's taking like 11 threes a game, and he's still hitting nearly half of them as a point guard, which, and the beautiful thing about Steph that people don't and I know everyone says like, oh, the greatest shooter ever, but what makes him the greatest shooter ever isn't the fact that, like, okay, he can shoot from anywhere. It's the fact that, like, there's so many three-point shooting roles. There's guys who are three-point specialists. There are guys who are corner specialists. There are guys who are, off pin down specialists. There are guys who, are pull-up specialists. There are guys who they're good off the pick and roll, like shooting off pick and roll. Steph is able to run around screens. He's able to dribble into a three. He's able to, run off pin downs. Like, it doesn't matter what sort of three-point shot is initiated for him or whatever type of three-point shot he initiates for himself, there's a good chance it's going to go in. So him being able to be, he's able to be like how should I describe this? He's able to be a three-point threat from every possible angle. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what spot on the court, obviously. So when you combine that with his, his ability to, facilitate, play make for guys, which I feel like he doesn't really get as much credit because, his assist numbers aren't through the roof. They've never been through the roof because that's just the role the Warriors play. Draymond Green, he's kind of the playmaker. That's the system. The system is kind of, you plug him as this point center, point forward role. Put him at the top of the key. We already know Draymond's not the, he's not the greatest scoring threat in the world. We all know that. He knows that himself. But, put him in situations where he can be effective for the team on offense. So he's able to play make for guys like Clay, guys like Poole, guys like Steph. And that's really been like the nucleus of their system on offense, is that you get this prolific shooter who can shoot whether the ball is in his hands or not. And then you get this outstanding star, one of the greatest defensive players ever. And he evolves into this kind of 5-tool player, this playmaking forward. And that's the type of forwards we're now beginning to see a lot more. We're not just a wing, but, Draymond Green's not a 3. He's a 4. He can guard wings. He could, you could label him as a wing, but he knows he's not he gets dirty. He's not exactly a wing. He bangs down with big men. He gets his fingers dirty. And him being able to be that for the Warriors has gone hand in hand with Steph. I'm sure Steph has gotten so many beautiful looks because Draymond Green has been there for him. You know what I mean? When Draymond Green's on the lineup, the whole offense is different. Steph has to play kind of a different brand of basketball. His ball's in his hands a little bit more. Not saying he's not capable of being a lethal 3-level scoring superstar that he's, become, but at the same time, like, you don't want Steph. Steph has never had to be in a situation where it's like Harden or Westbrook, where he has to initiate everything, every single play. Draymond Green does some of that for him. He alleviates some of that pressure off of him. So, with that being said, shout out Steph Curry. Definitely need you back on the court, my G. I had to. He's in the pyramid. You know what I mean? It's Steph. Anthony Davis. Finally, we were getting the Anthony Davis that I've been waiting for. You've been waiting for. The Lakers have been waiting for. He didn't have a down year last year. He was still a two-way all-star. That's the type of player he played last year. Obviously, like, AD ceilings through the roof. That's pretty much the reason why LeBron picked him. He picked him because, it's this two-way guy. He can do everything on the court. As I'm riding off into sunset, approaching retirement and this, the closing stages of my career, I got this prime superstar big in the prime of his career, just handling business. And I can alleviate him of certain things, scoring, and I can play make for him. I might not be able to carry the load, but he can do a lot of things on offense, on defense, and just being that torch. You know what I'm saying? LeBron picked him to be that torch for him. So AD, I had to keep him there. His numbers this year were astronomical before he went down with his stress foot fracture, I believe. So I had to keep him in the second tier of this pyramid. Joel Embiid, a lot like Anthony Davis, a two-way monster who has combined skill, mass, muscle, and just this physicality brand of basketball that we haven't really seen before. There hasn't been really a guy of this stature, this mass, that possesses all of these skill tools and all these skill moves and been able to be able to be lethal from pretty much anywhere on the court. Anywhere he can hit threes. You know, Joel Embiid, you definitely can't leave him open. You don't want to leave him open anymore because he's gone a lot more confident in that 3-point shot. But inside the arc, like there's really nothing you can do with Joel Embiid. Leading the league in scoring. The Philadelphia 76ers, and that's the thing, Joel Embiid hasn't got a lot of credit, but the guys who, you know, Tyrese Maxey, Harden, those guys have been hurt. He's had to kind of, you know, ride the ship with DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton, who a couple guys I talked about a couple weeks ago. You know, shout out to them. They've been doing their thing too, but Joel Embiid has never really been in a situation in the regular season where he's been asked to, like, okay, I gotta really, you know, I really gotta take us. You know what I mean? In the past, he's had guys like Jimmy Butler. He had Ben Simmons. Tobias Harris is still there. He can still, you know, give you 20 here and there for sure on a consistent basis. But yeah, you know, Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid. I feel like when his career is done, we're gonna look back on it and we're gonna be like, wow, this guy was really. We never really gave this guy the respect he exactly needs. I was on Twitter a couple of days ago and Drew Hanlon was not going at it, but he was tweeting back at another guy who was talking about, like, why doesn't Joel Embiid get the respect that he actually deserves? And I actually don't have an answer. I don't know. Drew Hanlon was just going back into saying, like, I don't really know either. But, you know, he definitely needs more respect. He's a superstar in this league, international star. Like, Joel Embiid, like, you would think he should be loved like Giannis, but he's not for some sort of reason. I've never really understood it. But it's I don't know. It is what it is. Speaking of Giannis, that was the next guy on here. The Greek freak, Giannis. No, I couldn't leave him out. Just like Embiid and AD, two-way megastar. You know, affects the game in all sorts of facets. The Bucks have been. I feel like the Bucks have just been riding the ship. You know, they've been working some guys back, Joe Ingles, Chris Middleton. So I don't even think we've got to see, like, what the best version of the Bucks is. I feel like they are a team that's a little bit older. You know, Drew Holiday's been around for a little bit. He's still, you know, I mean, he's in the pyramid too, by the way. But Drew Holiday's a guy that, you know, he has a decent amount of mileage on him. He's been playing for a while now. But I feel like we just haven't seen them yet. Like, I feel like they're just kind of, not coasting, but, you know, they're just kind of going along. They're trying to figure things out. You know, just like any NBA team. Like, it's a long season. And especially when you get two valuable guys like Joe Ingles and Chris Middleton who are really they can really make a difference on both ends, especially Joe Ingles being able to stretch the floor, guard multiple guys. I mean, the Jazz were what they were. You know, a big component of that was Joe Ingles. I mean, Joe Ingles went down with that torn Achilles, and the Jazz just kind of lost steer control of the season. You know what I mean? I mean, the Donovan Mitchell stuff didn't really come out. Like, there wasn't really any buzz around his future in, you know, Utah until really after they started struggling, and then Joe Ingles was ruled out for the season, and then you had the whole Rudy Gobert tension stuff. So it was a weird ending in Utah. You know what I mean? It was a weird chapter to close. And now you've got Donovan. He's going to do crazy stuff. He just had 71 last night in Cleveland. Rudy Gobert's in Minnesota, you know, doing the things he does best. So it was a weird closing in Utah. But Joe Ingles he's a guy that he could play on my basketball team any day of the week for sure, especially with the things he brings to the table. So Giannis, I feel like he's gonna see the fruits of his labor once those guys really, you know, really get it going. You know, I feel like post All-Star break, I feel like they're really gonna get clicking. It takes time. You know, Chris Middleton's been dinged up for a really long time. And obviously, like I mentioned, the Achilles with Joe Ingles. Who knows when he'll look like, you know, back to the real version of himself. It might take a little bit, but you know, Giannis is Giannis. Just like Jokic, Steph, Embiid, AD, he's just a one of one. And then to close out this tier, I have the one and only LeBron James. Now, LeBron, every year, like the past 2 years, past 2 off seasons, I've always come into the season, I'm like, what LeBron James are we gonna get? Not saying like whatever he's done before, we've expected him to do more and he hasn't. That's not what I'm saying. But LeBron, I just wanted to see how he'd bounce back. You know, obviously when AD went down and they ended up losing to the Suns in the first round, then the next year, you know, they come in with Russ. That ends up being a disaster for numerous reasons. I mean, all of them can all take a piece of the blame for it. And then you get into this year, you're rejuvenated. You're like, okay, backs are against the wall. We're a little bit older. We've been humbled. And I'm thinking like, okay, let's see what LeBron we get. LeBron didn't have a bad start. He had like a solid start to the year, but then he gets hurt. And then once I saw like, the leg soreness stuff and then, the abdomen stuff, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, all right, I hope this isn't what I think it's gonna be. Like I was saying, the Lakers, there were so many questions and everything was falling on LeBron's lap. You know what I mean? But LeBron's in here, he's like, hey, I'm 37 years old. What do you want me to do? Like, look at the guys around. Look at the roster. And even though you could be like, all right, well, LeBron, you picked the roster. At the end of the day, it's like, bro, he's 37, 38 years old. What do you expect the man to do with this? You know what I mean? Those days of carrying inept, inferior teams to deep playoff runs, I think those days they're kind of behind us. I won't say they're over, but they're kind of behind us. LeBron's LeBron. Just like him and Durant, I feel like him and Durant have been on this. And I asked myself this like the other day, like how many NBA players have been like a legit superstar for a decade plus? Like a legit NBA superstar. Not an all-star, not a star, NBA superstar. Like a couple guys come to name, it's really like LeBron, KD. 2022, we're in 2023, actually not even 2022, 2023. Even as great as Steph is, like, that's going back to 2013. You know what I mean? Like, LeBron and KD have been on this superstar ship for legit a decade, legit 10 years of superstar dominance. I don't have, the NBA Finals history right in front of me, but if you really want to look back the last 10 years, I think there's been the NBA Finals with at least one of them, right? Last year was, Celtics Warriors that ended that. But before then, when you go year by year by year by year by year, one of them's in there. So you're looking at I kind of see it as kind of like a Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant thing, like this longevity of just being a superstar for a decade. That is so hard to do. There are a lot of Hall of Famers that didn't have that. There are Hall of Famers who had like great peaks, but they weren't able to sustain that peak for a decade. Being able to be a top 3 player for a decade is a legit thing. Okay, if you want to say KD might have not been top 3, might have been top 5, I personally think they've both been top 3 for the past decade. I feel like the third player has been just a range of different players, whether it's Steph, Kawhi, Giannis. I mean, it's varied over time. But, yeah, and then this goes back to LeBron. Like, LeBron right now is like, he's like 36-7 or something ridiculous like that, or 28, 6-7. I don't know. I don't have the number right here in front of me, but since he's gone back, he's been carrying. He just had on his birthday 47, 48, whatever like that. He had like 47, 48 in Atlanta. They just had a game last night against I don't know what team they faced last night. I forget what they faced. He dropped like 42. And it's like, is this man actually gonna like, decline? Like, I'm starting to really think about it. Like, this man really might not decline. The only thing that really might force this man out might be injuries. I'm going to knock on wood, obviously, but I don't want that for him. But that might be the only thing that's going to force him out of the league, honestly, because I don't know. And obviously, I'm starting to see why he pays $1 million for his body, because, I mean, if it means you get to play until you're 40 years old to be a 40-year-old superstar, then so be it. I'd spend $1 million on my body too. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, that closes out the second tier. This next tier below, these are guys who are like fringe. I want to say like they're like fringe franchise guys, but they have superstar ability. You know what I mean? A couple of them are franchise guys, but they're kind of new to the list, or new to at least being, this high in my pyramid. But I mean, this group is really it. This next tier below, Devin Booker, John Morant, Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Zion Williamson, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, and DeMar DeRozan. A lot of guys on this list are very, very well accomplished. This group is very, 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 very not tricky, but it's a group that can change just like that. You know what I mean? Just like that. If Kawhi goes, if Kawhi goes ballistic for like 2 months, he's gonna climb the ladder. Kawhi was a guy that was in the tier above, injuries, and he hasn't played, like, there just hasn't been enough production over the past year for me to really keep Kawhi with them. So he's kind of like, he's in this group, but he's kind of like to the side. You know what I mean? Like, he might be up there. I mean, it might come late April, and I might be like, listen, Kawhi Leonard is still one of the 6 best basketball players in the world. It might come to that. I mean, he proved that, even though it was a long time ago, not last year, but the year before in the playoffs. Kawhi Leonard was arguably like the best player in the league. At that point in the playoffs, when we were watching, you're saying like, okay, this guy really might have it right now. Paul George, superstar ability. The Clippers have kind of been up and down, players in and out of the lineup. He's also dealt with some injury woes. He's back now, but, Irving, he's having an insane December. Insane if anyone's been watching. He's definitely going to be a lock for the All-Star game. I know there's some looming questions of games being played and whatnot, but you know how they do 11. They don't want 11 to succeed. They don't want 11 to smile. They don't want him to do anything. You know what I mean? So, shout out Kyrie. He's really been hooping. Jaylen Brown, 27 points a game on probably the best team in the league. Donovan Mitchell, fresh off his 71 last night against the Bulls. Man, Donovan Mitchell he's a very, very interesting basketball player because he's a guy I hate to call everyone a freak, but at the guard position, he's a freak because he's bigger than basically, like mass-wise, he's bigger than most point guards, so he can back you down. When it takes you to the rim, you really can't jump with him. If he bumps you, you're going to feel it. I had this conversation with my brother Chase. When he's coming out of the draft, we saw so much Dwayne Wade in him. So much Dwayne Wade, especially when he attacks the rim. But Dwayne Wade didn't have a three-point shot like Donovan Mitchell. Dwayne Wade was big. Don't get me wrong. He was a big guy, but I think because Donovan's a little bit shorter, maybe they're similar in height. I don't even know what their height is. I think Donovan Mitchell's like 6'3". D-Wade might have been like 6'5", but Donovan Mitchell, to be able to be that effective and that much of a killer at the two-guard position is something we haven't seen. I mean, Dwayne Wade was Dwayne Wade, but Donovan Mitchell, I think I'm going to stop saying he looks like Dwayne Wade. Like, Donovan Mitchell's just Donovan Mitchell because, like, a guy at that height, to have that mass, be able to be a prolific shooter, he can pretty much hit anywhere mid-range, too. He's a great mid-range. He's a solid floater. He can get to the rim, hits his free throws. Like, he hits a lot of his shots. Like, he hits, like, nearly 50% of his shots. He's, like, 40 from 3, I believe. And I think he's in the 80s. He's a great free throw shooter. He's probably, like, high 80s from the free throw line. I think it's time we got to take him, like, really serious. Like, before it was, like, okay, like, how good is Donovan Mitchell? Is he going to be, like, a solid franchise star? Now I'm looking at him, now I'm like, can this guy be one of the best 5 players in the league at some point? Like, that's really what I'm looking at. Like, you dropped 71 points in a win, and I think he hit like 60% of his shots. I really gotta look at you and be like, okay, like you really are one of those guys, like one of the guys. You know what I mean? This is a guy that, like I told you about the tiers prior, the 2 tiers above, with the KDs, the Lukas, the ADs, the LeBrons of the world, the Giannis's. D Mitch, like he wants to be that. He wants to be that. If he keeps that up, Cleveland's in a great spot in the Eastern Conference. They've been, pretty dangerous all year. I feel like they've really put their, foot on the map. I mean, he's in a prolific backcourt, Garland too, who, by the way, is also in this pyramid. But I think we're gonna have to take Mitch just a teeny bit more serious, a teeny bit. He's already really, really good, but I think he's turned it up a notch this year. Nearly 30 a night. Great shooting splits. I just feel like his time is now. He's in a beautiful situation. With a team that's like, here, you take the ball, go do your thing. Not like he wasn't able to do that in Utah, but like I said about the weird tension with Gobert and then Ingles getting hurt, they didn't have any guys that could really come in, and they had Jordan Clarkson for those couple years, but besides Jordan Clarkson, like, was there really anyone you were going to give the ball to and be like, hey, get out the way, go do your thing? And I feel like he's just in a beautiful spot in Cleveland right now. James Harden. James Harden was dinged up earlier this year. I feel like he's definitely one of the more underappreciated, like, first ballots we have right now. When you talk Steph, when you talk KD, you talk LeBron, you talk Russ, you talk Kyrie, you talk Dame, like, you gotta talk Harden too. Like, Harden is one of those guys that he's just such an offensively gifted player that, like, it almost doesn't matter. To me, it's almost like it doesn't matter what he does on defense. And obviously, like, he's been jabbed at for his defense over the course of his career, but the type of pick and roll maestro, type of shot maker, the way he manipulates defenses and just picks them apart, like, we all love Luka. I love Luka. But James Harden, like, Luka, all of this stuff is from James Harden. All the pace, manipulating defenses, picking them apart, surrounding him around with shooters. That's a James Harden blueprint. But no one liked James Harden. I don't really get it. I mean, I got so much respect for James Harden. He's been dinged up Sixers have, they kept it afloat, like I said earlier about with Embiid and Melton and Tobias Harris and Shake Milton and, the rest of those guys in Philly, Georges Niang. But Harden, he's still walking like, 25, 5, and 10. He still gets Joel Embiid a lot of easy looks. There's a reason why Joel Embiid is leading the league in scoring. Obviously, like, he's a superstar scorer. Like, we all know that. But, Harden does get him a lot of easy looks. And is there really any way to guard their pick and roll? I don't think there's any way you can really guard them. If you send two at Harden, you're leaving Embiid alone. You want to send two in Embiid, Harden might be at the 3-point line, and you're not going to leave him open from three, as we know. So, James Harden had to have him in the next tier. Dame Dollar, Damian Lillard, people's champ. I said a couple weeks ago that I underestimated his supporting cast in Portland. Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Nurkic, Shaedon Sharpe, all these guys, Nasir Little, even Justice Winslow. Justice Winslow's been actually a very, he's been a great impact player for them, especially 3 and D. That's kind of been the driving forces for taking these teams to the next levels. You want to have a plethora of guys who can guard and guys who can hit the three. That's just where the league is going right now, and he's a guy that can do that. So Dame Dollar, I know he was hurt last year, bad abdominal problems, obviously. But he's come back. He's been killing. I feel like he hasn't played like a ton of games. He's been in and out of the lineup. The injury bug has kind of gotten to him. But at the same time, it's like this is still Dame Dollar. Like this is still Damian. Mother effing Lillard. Like this guy is really still like that. There's just too much game, too much respect, too much of a legacy to put him down below. I just had to have him with these guys. There was no way I was going to be able to talk about guys like Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, and not mention Dame Dollar. So Damian Lillard had to have a spot locked in this tier. John Morant, I know if he was ever watching this, he'd be like, "Damn, you got me with those guys." Like he respects the game, he respects players, but John Morant, he's good in the West, as he says. I feel like this is a good spot for him. I feel like last year he really took a big leap. This year he took even another leap, stats wise, team wise. Memphis, that's the team I picked to really run the course once everyone's really healthy. They've started to show some signs. Desmond Bane just got back. They got Jaren Jackson. Tyus Jones off the bench. They got some guys. in Memphis. And their GM does an amazing job. Every draft, I feel like he just hits. He finds these diamonds in the rough, and they're interchangeable. They can just come and impact the game like as soon as they hit the court. So obviously Ja is really like the nucleus to that culture, like the culture driven. Like you watch the Memphis Grizzlies, you think you're watching an AAU team. You see him with the speaker, pre-games, jumping, getting lit, doing all that. And I feel like Ja really brought that to Memphis. Ja brought that Memphis basketball swagger, that blue collar, work hard, play hard. Like I feel like he really instilled that in this, Memphis Grizzlies basketball culture. So shout out to Ja. He's having an amazing year. All-Star season locked for sure. And I can't wait to see what he does over the next 5 years as he really ascends into his, prime of his career. So Devin Booker re-aggravated his hamstring, I believe, like last week. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. He's pretty much the whole reason the Suns where they are right now in the West. He was holding them afloat, getting some MVP love early on. He's had a couple 50-point games, I believe. He's just been, kind of taking that next step, as the best premier two guard in the league. And he's been that for the past, year and a half. But injuries, Chris Paul's been in and out of the lineup, Cam Johnson. So he's really been that for them. So I can't wait till he gets back. But yeah, he had to have a spot on here. The guy who had a finals trip, he averaged 26 in the finals against the Bucks. He had to have a spot on here. Zion Williamson, this is the highest he's ever been on any of my pyramids. I had to include him. The Pelicans are, I believe, they're number one in the West. Top two. I haven't really been keeping up. The West is so tight, so it's so hard to keep up. But Zion's been amazing for a guy that has been, dealing with the injury bug, dealing with, issues being able to stay on the court. Him being able to hold the Pelicans afloat, and shout out to Willie Green. He's really, he's really galvanized these troops to really take that next step too. And they've been doing it without some guys. CJ McCollum has been okay this year. He hasn't been great. I'm not gonna lie. Brandon Ingram, the guy who led them to the second round last year, he's been out. Actually, I'm not even sure. Was it the second round? Whatever round they faced the Suns, it might have been the first round. I'm not really sure. But anyways, he was the reason why the Pelicans even pushed the Suns to the brink of elimination. So definitely a guy that I would have had on this pyramid too, Brandon Ingram. But he's just been dealing with injuries and stuff like that. Hopefully he can get healthy, get back on the court, because I just think he's an amazing player. I think that's a guy that he can go down as one of the best to ever do it. When he's right and he's playing at a good level, a high level, I think he'll go down. And him and Zion, if they can figure out how to if Willie Green really finds out the formula for them to play off of each other, I think that team is going to be a very, very, very big problem. They got some great guys, Herb Jones, Alvarado. So they've got something. Valanciunas has been really, really great for them. So the Pelicans, they got something. They really got something. I'm not going to say I was shocked, because I saw some of it last year in the playoffs, obviously with, Ingram's ability, but who knows what that team would have been like if we're getting this version of Zion with that, with that particular group and a healthy Ingram and CJ and all those guys. Who knows what we got here on our hands. So Zion Williamson, 60% shooting. He's been amazing. I know he was a little gimpy. I think it was last night. I heard, I don't know if he went to the locker room, but I saw a tweet. I was on Twitter just, catching up with like news and stuff like that, and I heard he was gimpy, and then he went to the bench. I don't know if he finished the game. I didn't even look into that, but he's been amazing. I'm proud of where he is right now. Following all the hype from Duke and the busted shoe, and then him coming in, Jordan signature shoe. He got a Jordan signature shoe. He hadn't even played 2 years. That's another thing that people aren't realizing. He got a signature shoe before Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, and this is only Zion. Zion has not even played half the games those guys have played. He came in, so you already knew Zion was coming with this, not just hype, but he was coming to take the league by storm, and he's taking the season by storm this far. So shout out to Zion Williamson. DeMar DeRozan. I know the Chicago Bulls have been a little underwhelming. I understand, but DeMar DeRozan has just been aging beautifully. I mean, he doesn't. It seems like these guys don't age. They don't age. I'm very convinced that once you hit age 30 in the NBA, or 29, 30, whatever it may be, once you hit that point and you realize you may not have quite the lethal athletic powers that you used to have, because people don't talk about it, but man, DeMar DeRozan used to be someone that lived above the rim. He's been in a dunk contest. He's a guy who used to just attack the rim strictly. Now all he does, he just warms up, comes in, and takes 17 footers, and he hits them. You know what I mean? He's outstanding footwork, one of the purest, beautiful scorers that the league has to offer right now. Zach LaVine has not been a shell of himself, but he's been kind of up and down. So the Bulls, they've been underwhelming. I mean, I know there've been some rumors about them blowing it up, and Patrick Williams hasn't been that for them. Lonzo Ball's also just been, he's been probably suffering the worst of the injury bug. I don't know when we're going to be able to see him back. Hopefully he's doing okay. I saw there was a rumor out there that he wasn't even able to walk at some point. He could not put weight on his knees. That is a big red flag. Obviously, you don't want to hear things like that. But I hope Lonzo's still a young guy. Hopefully, he can still get his legs back under him, because DeMar needs it. DeMar definitely. This next tier below was so hard. It was hard. It was very hard. There were some tough cuts on this, real tough cuts. But in this tier, I had Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Drew Holiday, Pascal Siakam, Julius Randle, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox, Darius Garland, and Klay Thompson. So Tyrese Halliburton leading the league in assists. Tyrese Halliburton. He's been amazing. I'm really not shocked. I lied. I'm kind of shocked that he's leading the league in assists. I'm not gonna lie, but I always knew that he was this great pass first guy, great floor general. He can really get guys easy looks. He's just a point guard that you would love to run your offense. You know what I mean? If you're a GM and you want a point guard, like an old school point guard, Tyrese Halliburton checks off all the boxes. He's just like Chris Paul. He just comes in, plays the game the right way, and he just makes all the players around him better. You know what I mean? Especially on offense. He's been great. He's walking 20 and 10. Should be an all-star. I hope he's an all-star, because Indiana's been surprising everyone. And that team is not super talented. Not super talented, but they got a lot of guys that do a lot of different things. You got Ben Mathurin, the guy they drafted. He's been great. He's a Sixth Man of the Year candidate in his lone rookie year. That's something you don't see every day. Buddy Hield has just been he's been a revelation. I mean, he's shooting the ball lights out. Him and Tyrese have similar camaraderie dating back to their times as Kings. Miles Turner is one of the best, stretch fives, I would say. I mean, he can hit a couple threes, protect the rim, rebound. He does all the dirty work that you want your five to do. And obviously, Tyrese is going to get him a lot of easy looks. So I think Tyrese Halliburton's been amazing this year. Without a doubt, deserves a spot in this pyramid. And I also can't wait to see what he looks like when he's like 26, 27. Trae Young. Trae Young his numbers just amaze me, even though you don't want to dig deep too much into numbers, but his numbers over his 5-year career, I forget how many years. I think he's been the year. Is this his fourth year? Fourth or fifth year? I forget. I think it's his fourth year. But he is basically for his career like 26, 27, and like 9. I don't think there are a lot of players ever that even average that for their career, even though, like I said, he's pretty early. His threes are kind of down. He's not shooting that great from the field, but, Atlanta's kind of been a mess. They bring in DeJounte, and I love DeJounte. DeJounte is, he's a great player, great two-way player especially. But, you bring him in, so you got that to sort out. You got to sort out who's going to have the ball in his hands, who's going to run the offense, all that. You would think, like, okay, Trae can play off the ball because he can shoot, but Trae's you've never asked Trae to do that. Now you ask him to do that now. Atlanta, they shipped off, or they let Kevin Huerter walk out the door. He's hitting like half his threes in the Kings now. They let Cam Reddish go. Those are 2 wings, through 3-and-D scoring wings, not even just 3D guys. Those are guys who can put the ball on the ground and go get a bucket. You've seen them have moments in the playoffs. So Atlanta's kind of funny. I feel like that's got to be a reason why Trae's probably not playing up to his part. It's not an excuse, but you can imagine, franchise guy, roster is not as great. John Collins has been on the NBA trading block the past like 3 years. You've already showed him you don't even want him, even though you're asking him to play, 30 minutes a night, go out in multiple wings and scores, and, kind of be that dirty guy for you. I don't really know what direction they're going in. Trae Young had gone into it with I believe a reporter over him not being in attendance for a game, even though he was not on the injury report. And Trae was going back talking about, this is private manner, you got to keep things private. There was a couple sound bites from that. You have the Nate McMillan part, which is kind of funny because he's the guy you brought in after. He's the guy you brought in to kind of bring this thing together. Not saying he's a bad coach. He's a proven coach in this league. That looks like it hasn't really worked out. And again, the Eastern Conference is very competitive, and it's not like the Hawks get blown out. It's not like they're losing by a ton of points. I mean, you've been in a lot of close games. But I'm very unsure of what direction they're going in. Even with Trae Young, like what does this look like in a couple of years? Is this on Trae? Is this a guy that just likes to just come in and take a couple shots? I don't think so. I think he's a star player. I mean, this is a guy that was pretty much the reason why they went to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years ago. And I know people are going to be like, oh, it was a fluke because of what's transpired, but that's not the same roster. You have a lot of uneasy factors going. You have a lot of uneasy things going around in the foundation. And the only thing the Hawks have as a foundation is DeJounte and Trae Young. They're just going to count on those guys to come in and combine for 45, 50 points a night. And that's really all you have. So I'm very uncertain about the direction the Hawks themselves are going in. I think Trae's great. He hasn't played up to par. I understand that. He probably understands that too. I mean, we don't have to keep reminding him. He definitely knows how he's playing. But you got to keep aware of, multiple factors. Are the Hawks, is that the team for him? Is that the situation for him? Are the players around him the most ideal players around him to maximize him? Is it the coach? Is it the GM? So there are a lot of questions going on in Atlanta. But nonetheless, I think Trae is still an outstanding basketball player. He's still a walking 25-10, easy, like in his sleep. There's only so much things I can say about him, but he's still a great player. Drew Holiday. This is the same player that basically took out Chris Paul in the 2021 NBA Finals. He said, it's good, I'm going to take him 94 feet. And he single-handedly took Chris Paul out of the NBA Finals. Had some moments last year in that Bucks-Celtics series. No Chris Middleton. But, you're not going to ask Drew Holiday to guard the best guy will give you 30 points, dish out 8, 9 assists. That's a lot. That's a lot. And as well as help Giannis out. He's done his thing. I think he's one of the unsung heroes in the NBA. Outstanding player. It seems to be like his peers give him more love than the media does, or we do. But I think he's still an outstanding player. If you want to go win a championship, you need a guy like Jrue Holiday on your team. As you noticed, I didn't say that about all these players, for the most part, because a lot of them are not carbon copies of each other, but they all kind of, they produce on the court in different ways. Similarly, but in different ways. Jrue is one of those guys that you just want on your team, and he's been great. Pascal Siakam, he's taking the next step. This is not the same Pascal Siakam that was, asked to go, hand in hand with Kawhi Leonard through the playoffs, and he kind of had moments, and he kind of had some moments where he looked like he wasn't ready yet. But that's what happens. I mean, when you're in the league for 5-6 years, you start to pick things up. You start to, experience can, only take you so far. So Pascal Siakam's been amazing. The Raptors have been kind of funny. I know Scottie Barnes is not having the year he'd imagined. OG Anunoby's been, he's been solid, especially on the defensive end. But, the Raptors they've been iffy. A lot like the Hawks, you don't really know. I shouldn't say that. The Raptors have a better infrastructure. I like the Raptors' foundational level better. They know who they are. They play the right way. They're a very competitive team. They're not like the Hawks, who are really kind of uneasy about what direction they're going in. The Raptors know what direction they're going in, and they have a lot of guys that are, a lot of the core guys, the star guys, are closer in age, so it makes sense for them to go forward with them. Pascal Siakam's really been like the lone hero for this team, to be honest. I mean, he's gonna be a lock for the All-Star game. But he's been great. He's been great. So he had to make a lock on this tier. This was a guy that almost made an All-NBA third team last year. When I was going through my players, like who I was gonna put where, I had Pascal somewhere. I had him somewhere on there. So shout out Pascal Siakam. He's really been hooping this year. Julius Randle, welcome back. You know what I'm saying? Welcome back, Julius Randle. I know last year was kind of a nightmare. It's crazy. I didn't even tell me this. I saw Julius Randle at when I went to the Slam Classic with my brother. Julius Randle pulled through. Julius Randle was at Rucker Park watching the Slam Classic, so that was really cool to see. But Jay Randle, I mean, he's been, personally, I think I want to say a career year, because 2 years ago when he really had his coming out party, Knicks made the playoffs and whatnot, and I think I had him on my MVP ballot. I might have had him like 5th on my own MVP ballot, not, the media's. The media pushes a lot of narratives and whatnot, but I thought Julius Randle was really the reason why the Knicks got where they are. And this is before RJ Barrett to the next page. Obviously, Jalen Brunson, his addition helps the Knicks, but Julius Randle has really been the guy for them, and that's something that you'd love to see, especially as a Knicks fan. You've been looking to see, okay, who's going to be the guy? It's going to be Barrett. It's going to be Randle. You're bringing in Brunson. Now, what are we asking Brunson to do? Is he going to be the leader for us that we need? Shout out to Julius Randle. 20-10-5. He's hitting his 3-ball. He's just a skilled bully out there. You know what I mean? He's just getting to his spots. His middies come a long way. He's a guy that out of Kentucky, like, people really didn't know what they were getting out of him. People didn't know if they were going to get this, like, this guy who can just be, who's really restricted to just, being inside 15 feet, who has to use a lot of his muscle to be effective on the court, especially on offense. He's been pretty damn good. Bam Adebayo having a career with Miami Heat, Miami culture. He's a guy that everyone's been waiting to take that next step, waiting to like turn the page. He has all the tools. I've always not compared him, but I've always talked about him in the same conversation as a Draymond. And like I said earlier about Draymond being that guy to play make for others, stretch the court, stretch bigs out, being able to be effective from the top of the key, find shooters. Bam can be that. We already knew that. We just waited to see. So averaging a career, had 21 points a night. He's playing well. He's playing really well. The Heat, I don't know if they have enough depth to hang with the East favorites. I mean, the East is loaded. Bucks, Celtics, Nets, Sixers. I think it's really, really loaded. I don't know if they have enough. I mean, and this is just Bam. It's really Bam and Tyler Hero. So after that, like, I feel like it starts to get a little thin. Kyle Lowry's getting a little bit up there. Jimmy Butler's amazing, but he can't seem to really stay on the court. Bam Adebayo, him being able to be, a premier All-NBA defender, an actual scorer for them. He's averaging 21 a night. That's going to go ways for the Miami Heat, especially a team that's in search of depth. I don't think they have enough depth. don't think they have enough depth to hang with the East favorites. You know, East is loaded. You got the Bucks, Celtics, Brooklyn Nets, the Philly Sixers are now. They just got Tyrese Maxey back now. They're getting a little bit more stronger. So I don't know where the Heat as a team are gonna go, but what I do know is that, you know, Bam Adebayo, he's been that for them. He's been great on both ends. And really, who knows what the Heat would look like, you know, without the tools that he brings on a nightly basis. So he had to have a spot locked in here. De'Aaron Fox, Bam Adebayo's college teammate at Kentucky. Swiper Fox. So De'Aaron Fox, I feel like I've been kind of the poster boy for like the De'Aaron Fox fan club or defense club. I think he's amazing. I think he should be talked about basically in the same conversation as the rest of the elite point guards. I feel like his situation's been different because he's had multiple head coaches. 2, he's had, you know, all sorts of different cores around him, all sorts of different surrounding players. He hasn't been in a stable situation, a stable environment. So you bring in Mike Brown, you bring in Malik Monk, you bring in Kevin Huerter. You did the Sabonis trade. That looked great. The last like 15 games last year looked great. You could see that, you know, Sabonis was really helping Fox with a lot of easy looks. Because, you know, you want to use the strengths of your players. Okay, Fox is not an outstanding three-point shooter. We know that. Okay. Why don't we bring in players that can help stretch the floor so he can just get downhill all game? I mean, he's shooting like 52% from the field. For a point guard, that's pretty impressive. I mean, those are like Steph, Donovan Mitchell, like those. That's a great clip. Kyrie Irving, that's a great percentage, obviously. So, taking half his shots. You know, he was 25-7 a couple years ago, but the team stunk. So obviously, no one's gonna mention him. I thought he should have been All-Star that year, but now he's like 24, 4, 6 assists. 3 ball is still okay. It's not outstanding, but you know, he can still hit them. He's starting to put a hand up. He's a lot more confident in his mid-range game. It's not off the charts. His mid-range game is, you know, it's great. It's solid. You have to, once he gets around that elbow free throw area, you just know. And you got to respect his shot. And the thing is, if you don't put a hand up, you got to watch for counters because he's so quick. He knows he knows how to blow by guys. He'll get into that floater. He's still super athletic. He doesn't show it all the time, but that's a guy just like John Morant who used to play above the rim. Now he's figured out different ways of kind of pacing himself, picking his spots to be more effective, get a higher quality look than kind of just, you know, going downhill like an NFL running back. Downhill. He's still been downhill, you know, thanks to Sabonis being able to kind of stretch the floor, bring bigs out like Draymond does, and kind of open up all these lanes for these shooters. Cutters like De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. The Kings have been a great story. I wrote about them, I think a couple weeks prior to the season, maybe like a month prior to the season. I was just like, listen, this team got it. The team makes sense. The team might not have a bunch of superstar players, but the team makes sense. You know, Keegan Murray, he hasn't been, you know, this outstanding rookie to start. But like I said, it takes time with a lot of these rookies. You got to adjust in so many different ways. But, you know, he's a solid guy. Like I mentioned, Hurd and Malik Monk, you got your shooters. Trey Lyles is a capable offensive big off the bench. You got Sabonis, one of the best centers in the league, personally, just because I think of all the stuff he does, all the dirty work. He's not looking to go get 20 and 10. He's just looking to do anything to help the team win. If it means grabbing 15 boards, go ahead. If it means he has to go guard Embiid, you know, go ahead. He's gonna go and try. He's gonna try, that's for sure. If it means he needs to score 30, he'll go score 30. So I think the addition of Sabonis was so key to Fox that, you know, even though Fox had the talent, but the addition of Sabonis, their play styles are just so cohesive. They coexist so well that they both can maximize each other. They can maximize the ability from each other. So De'Aaron Fox, All-Star, had to make the list. Domantas Sabonis, that's another guy. The next guy I was going to get into. He's on the list. Kings are a playoff team. They've been flirting with like top 5, top 4. I think they're around the 5th or 6th seed. And I think they're leading their division. That's a division that's with the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Suns. So they've been an amazing story. So, you know, shout out to the King, shout out to Swiper Fox, shout out to Domantas Sabonis. Darius Garland is my last guy on this list. DG the PG. I think he just like Fox, he has to be mentioned as one of the premier point guards in this league. I think he's a guy that's knocking on the top 5 point guard in this league if he's not already there. That's just a list I gotta think about. But he's been great. He's been outstanding. The Cavs are, they've been amazing all year. DG's been amazing. He's still like 21 and like 8. But, DG's a guy like, you see Donovan Mitchell and the amount of shots he's taking. Like, DG is just trying to make life easier for Donovan Mitchell. That's the type of point guard he is. He's a guy that comes in, just like Tyrese Halliburton. He's going to come in, he's going to plays the game the right way. He can affect basically any play on the court. He can make any play on the court better. He can just, impact the game positively. He can really bring the game to the next level. Any play on the league. DG the PG, I feel like he has a lot to do with, the run that Mitchell's been on the past month and a half, or just all season. I feel like he's just impacted, just like Tyrese Halliburton. He can go and just, he can really make guys around him better and just make their lives easier. He's a prolific shooter. You cannot put a hand down on him. Amazing floater. And I know I'm on here and I say that this guy got a great floater, this guy got a great floater, but like Darius Garland, like he has an outstanding floater. Like what makes it so like great is that it's so quick. It's so quick and he has range. Like if you've ever shot a floater, you know that like there's a certain depth that you have to. There's some guys who just toss at the rim. There's some guys who get enough arc on it. It doesn't matter if he's at the free throw line, just inside the free throw line. He's gonna get that thing up, and it's like a teardrop. It just falls. So you can tell he's watched plenty of Steph Curry, plenty of Kyrie Irving. A lot of these guys were great floaters. LaMelo Ball, he has an outstanding floater too. Tony Parker too. Tony Parker, one of the like early pioneers of the floater. It's a beautiful move. It's simple, and it gets your shot off quicker, and it's very unexpected. It's very unexpected. If you can really use it right, it's a very unexpected and underappreciated move. And DG has that in his package. Great shooter, prolific shooter. I think DG's a guy, he could go be a 25, 5, and like 9 guy shooting 50, 40, 90. I think DG, he can go be a 50, 40, 90 guy 100%. That's the type of ability he has. So I got DG the PG on here. Next to this tier, I had to include Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just like De'Aaron Fox, John Morant, Darius Garland, a lot of these young guards in the league right now, he's just taking his game to the next level, like crazy. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, I saw this coming, because I really didn't. I knew he was going to be like a solid player, but I didn't expect 30 a night. Like, I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. I'll be the first to tell you. I did not expect Shai to do that. The Thunder, they're actually an interesting team. They have a lot of interesting pieces, Josh Giddey, Chet Holmgren, obviously out for the year. I talked about it a couple weeks ago, talking about like I did not expect this superstar ascendance, but since then he's still killing. He's still killing. With them, Jalen Williams, Dort, they got some pieces. They really got some pieces. So I can't wait to see what they'll look like next year, especially with Shai Gilgeous just kind of taking this next step as the franchise guy, someone that's now he's been there. He's been able to be like, okay, I can go toe-and-toe with that team's best guy. If Paul George and Kawhi Leonard come into Oklahoma City and the Thunder are looking for a guy to really go toe-and-toe with them, now Shai has established himself as that guy. So shout out to Shai. Definitely this tier. Klay Thompson is my last guy on here. Klay, who just had 54 against the Hawks, I believe, in double overtime. I know he's not shooting that great from the field. He's shooting like sub 40, maybe like 40% from the field, which is very much not like him at all. But he's, with Steph being out, I think this is good for him. I think it's good for the team because they were my preseason pick to win the whole thing. Obviously, like I don't know where I went wrong. I think there's been a little bit of an NBA Finals hangover that's kind of hovered around their heads. The Jordan Poole incident probably didn't help with Draymond with team chemistry and whatnot. But he's a grown man; they got to go get it. So Klay Thompson, he's been amazing since Steph went down. I think that's what they need. They need a vet to kind of step forward. Jordan Poole's great, don't get me wrong, but Jordan Poole is still a young guy in this league. He's still figuring himself out. So if Klay can be that security blanket while Steph is out, it's going to be for the betterment of the team. It was a championship pedigree thing. There was no way I could name 30-ish guys and not name Klay. And I just think he deserves a lot more respect for what he's been asked to do over the course of his career. He's literally the epitome of 3-and-D. This is a guy that was asked to go get 20 points, and they asked him to go guard Kyrie Irving, go guard Russell Westbrook, go guard James Harden. That's what they asked him to do. So I feel like he should get his respect. He doesn't. I feel like he doesn't get enough respect, but definitely for what he does, what he brings to the table, I feel like he had to be in my pyramid. And if you're gonna go drop 54 in a double overtime game, then yeah, that's a good way to create some pyramid buzz, even though you've had a tough year. So I think Klay's gonna turn it up a notch. One thing that doesn't get brought up about Klay Thompson is that yes, they won a ring last year, but people don't remember that he came back. He was rehabbing, and then he joined the team, and then he got his legs under him. He hasn't had a normal offseason dating back to probably before the 2019 finals. 2019 finals, got hurt towards ACL, tried to come back towards Achilles. So he hasn't had one offseason where he was 100% healthy, you know, post playoffs or post season, like, you know, after the season, whatever, after the season wrapped up. He hasn't had a one solid offseason where he can just ramp up. So you can imagine you tear ACL, tear Achilles, thrown out there, you're asked to go play 25, 30 minutes of playoff basketball, high-level playoff basketball, be a prolific shooter, go guard multiple positions, be that kind of guard defender for the team, and then go into the offseason, now you're asked to kind of revamp. Now your body's got to revamp. Keep in mind the previous 2 offseasons, you've just been trying to get back to being healthy. Now you've played, now your legs kind of feeling it. I can't speak from experience. I've never torn my ACL, my Achilles, whatnot, but I can imagine, like, listen, if you're going to go and you're going to want a deep playoff run, first offseason, it's been the first offseason in 3 years where you really need to kind of fine-tune your body and get everything all sorted. It can be a little bit tricky. Then you add to the part, the championship hangover, and then you add to the part, he's a little bit older. This is not a 25, 26-year-old. This is a, you know, this is a guy who's been in the league for a little bit. He's got, like I always say, he's has some mileage on him. He's played a couple games, you know what I mean? So that's my respect to Klay, because I know that's definitely not easy, especially as a guy who's been slighted. It's a guy who you want to say he's been kind of forgotten in this league. You know, he had that run-in with Devin Booker. I feel like that run-in with Devin Booker earlier this year, I feel like that was just a reflection of where he is in this league. I feel like that wasn't just him getting into it with Devin Booker. That was him looking at the NBA talking about, listen, I got 4 of these things, and they're not getting one without me, which is a fact. They're not getting any of those 4 rings without Klay Thompson. That's just a fact. You go back to 2016, do they even get to the finals without him? Probably not. I mean, he had that big Game 6 in OKC. That's one of the greatest games I've ever seen, especially the greatest playoff games I've ever seen. Actually, forget playoffs. That's just one of the greatest games I've ever seen. When you take into account what's at stake, them being backs against the wall, on the road. Klay Thompson's never been asked to do that. He's never been in a spot where, you know, it was Steph. Steph was the MVP that year. Now you're asking Klay to, hey, Klay, like, lean on Klay, like, hey, Klay, man, I need you right here. And he goes, he drops 40. That was the legend of Klay. So, Klay Thompson, you know, first ballot, had to have him on this pyramid. And, yeah, that's really a close on the pyramid. You know, I did name off some guys. There are probably some guys I forgot. You know, I named off some guys earlier that probably would have made it, you know, but due to situations, injuries, what they're doing, couldn't have them. But, yeah, man. That's a wrap. That's a wrap on this episode of Nass, you know, Player Pyramid Edition. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope you really educated yourself, because, you know, this ish ain't easy. It ain't easy at all. It ain't easy. It takes a lot of time. A lot of note taking, and yeah, a lot of listening. And but nah, you know that God loves to do this. You know what I'm saying? God loves to do this. I got my little All My Lay playing. Some good Afro beats. Afrobeats, as y'all like to say. Even though a lot of y'all who are African who came and speak a native language love Afrobeats. You gotta stop saying that. Yeah, that's a close another episode of Nass. We'll see y'all soon.